Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of In Between the Stitches. As always, I'm your host, and look, Chase Olschwanger is back with me.
I'm back
in the studio, so I will not be doing the solo episode again. Thank you, Chase, for being back.
Yeah, no, I hope everybody had a great Thanksgiving. Hope you had a good one.
Yep, I did. How about yourself?
I had a great one. I had family come in town. Good food, good football.
Cowboys won.
Yeah.
It's better because I think we were like 1-9 the past 10. I didn't know that. We were like 1-9
I
the
thought
past
we had
Thanksgiving.
3. I don't
Because
remember.
there were obviously games like that Raiders game.
Yeah, just
that
terrible.
ruined my Thanksgiving because I was just so pissed at the refs and everything. But it was a good week of football, except for that Bills game. We will talk about that, and you will hear my thoughts, my censored thoughts. I need to keep that in mind. But of course, as always, we're going to kick it off with some hockey. Zach Babb will not be with us, but we're going to do our best. So obviously, beat the Winnipeg Jets 2-0 last night. Ottinger had a shutout. I think that again. I said it last week, and I'll continue to say it when it comes to, especially with the Stars and a little bit with the Mavs. It's kind of the same points because the season's so, kind of,
right.
It's the same thing with baseball. It's like, well, each week you're kind of making the same points sometimes because, well, it doesn't change week to week. It's more of a month to month type of thing than it is with football, which is week to week. But got Calgary in Calgary tomorrow at 8. So we've dropped to number 2 in the division, number 3, number 5 in the conference. But, I mean, I don't pay attention to that right now.
No, I will like to say this. The Stars are having a lot of inconsistency problems right now. You're beating teams 7-3, right? And then you end up losing that game. Or a good example was versus Colorado. It was you're up 3-0, and then you give up 6 unanswered.
Right.
Like that's something that championship teams don't do. And Colorado, we know very well, is a championship team. And then, when the Stars were down 2-0 and they ended up winning 6-2 or whatever it was, 7-2, 7-3. So it's like, what's going on here? You got to hold these leads and then you're having to, make your way back, and which is good and winning those games.
Yeah.
But it's like, you got to see a little more consistency here.
You want to see more consistency from a championship team, but I'm not worried until you get to like February and March. And that's when kind of the season heats up. Right now, it's so early.
Yeah, of course.
I'm not worried about anything. I'm happy that we haven't had really any injuries. We've been healthy.
I hope it stays that way.
We're all knocking on the table here, hoping that it stays that way. But again, you've been playing well. You've been winning games, and as we saw with the Rangers, and as we saw with the Panthers last year, and use a hockey reference, you just got to get in. It doesn't matter how you get in. It doesn't matter if you back in, if you crawl in, or if you jump in with both feet. As long as you get in, you got a chance to win the championship.
Exactly.
And I still maintain that all 4, I will keep saying it every week, all 4 teams have a chance. The Cowboys are the next one up. So if they win the Super Bowl, then it'll be on, the Stars? Who wins first? Because it's about the same time.
Yeah, I don't know. I think it might be the Stars, because
I think it might be.
I know if you go all the way to the finals, it ends in May,
sometime like that.
June.
It'll be on the Mavs and the Stars then to carry on the torch. But the Cowboys are the one that makes me nervous. But we'll get to them in a second. But the Stars, they're playing like a team that could make a run. Yeah. Maybe not the Bruins of last year, but hey, the Bruins didn't even make it out of the second round, right? So it was the first. It was the first, not the second round. The first
3-1
round.
and
that was right. They lost to the Panthers.
Yeah.
Short-term. So you don't have to win the table to win the championship.
Sure. Yeah, and talking about the Stars' inconsistency is not me, isn't me discrediting them at all. They're a great hockey team. We are a good team. We are a team that is capable of winning. And it's just, something that you got to watch out for, something that's a little bit concerning on you're falling back and then you have to make your way up, or you're having big leads and you lose them.
Right.
Just stuff that can't happen when it gets to the postseason.
And I did want to mention that they are getting Mike Modano a statue outside the American. So finally, the greatest American-born hockey player of all time will get his statue. So now we're going to move to Chase's expertise here and go to the Dallas Mavericks. Mavs beat the Rockets 151. Wait, I have that wrong.
121 to
115. I did it backwards yesterday as well. So it was a nice day for DFW Sports. We got the Grizzlies at home on Friday. It feels so weird because it's December 1st when you play a game, but it feels so far away. Right. It's just 2 days.
Right.
November has gone by quickly. Mark Cuban sold shares to the Adelson family, was how you pronounced it. And then we're obviously targeting Dorian Finney-Smith. So, Chase, where would you like to start?
Yeah, I mean, that's pretty much it right there, all in the one little package. But no, Mavs look good.
They do.
They looked good yesterday. The Rockets actually had the best defensive team when it comes to opponent scoring points. in the NBA, and the Mavs took advantage of that, and it looked like Rockets had nothing. Luka with a 41-9-9, and it's very nice part of the script that Luka dropped 41 with Dirk on his first broadcast last night. If you did not tune in, Dirk was with Followell and Devin Harris on the broadcast last night, and
Is that going to be like a constant thing?
I don't believe so, no, because obviously you still got Derek Harper who's going to be there. I don't know where Harper's been this year. I don't know the situation going on there, but it's whatever. But no, I don't think this is I don't think it's a one-time thing, but it's not going to be something that's going to be consistent throughout the season.
And then I do want to make a note that Adolis Garcia, Obama himself, was jersey swapping with Luka.
Yeah, that was awesome.
And was there, and that was really cool to see, just because I don't think some people realize it'll take a little while to really fully set in. But all of those guys, from Ian Kennedy, who just retired, to Corey Seager and Adolis Garcia, the big heroes, everyone on that team will A, always get an ovation when they come back.
Yeah.
And B, will forever be immortalized as a champion.
Yeah.
Even it's the weirdest thing to think about. Like, Garcia went from fan favorite. He usually gets the biggest little pop, during the games for all the current players. But now he's a DFW legend.
Yeah,
he's no longer just a Rangers fan favorite that we remember very fondly. I'm not comparing him to him, but like a Pete Incaviglia or someone like that Ruben Sierra that we think about really fondly and was a lot of fun to watch. Now he's a legend.
Yeah.
Like, we're talking legend. Well, they'll probably put the team in the Rangers Hall of Fame.
Yeah.
So he'll be, when I say that, anytime I say when he'll be Rangers Hall of Famer from this team or from 2023's team, I'm probably talking about them being in the Hall of Fame as the team. Now, Seager is probably going to go to the Hall of Fame as a player.
Yes, for sure.
And Garcia could as well. But we will see. Anyway, back to the Dallas Mavericks. They played well. The Rockets they're not a world-beating team, but they're a good defensive team.
Yeah, they are, and they're above 500 team to start the year.
Yeah. They're good. They're young.
Yeah,
that's the biggest thing. They're on the upswing, as we could say. In sports.
Of course, yeah. There's a lot of teams that teams like the Magic, who are second in the Eastern Conference, and the Timberwolves, who are leading the Western Conference with the who's behind them? The Thunder as second. It's like teams that you did not expect to be here, but every year they get better, and now you're really seeing that they're getting to their potential. They have their team healthy. Chet is healthy, and he's rookie of the year right now over Wembanyama. Right. It's scary to see that these teams now who were looking at last year like whatever, right? They're the teams you got to watch out for now.
Well, I think that we also kind of knew the Thunder were going to be what they have been because they had an injury.
Yeah.
Right. So they had some injury problems, and we kind of didn't see them at full strength. I think Sam Presti deserves a ton of credit because he took an aging veteran kind of base team and turned it into this young team. He's got how many? I think he's got a frick ton of first round picks.
Yeah.
From now until the end of the decade.
Yeah.
I mean, it's I can't remember the number. It was absurd when I saw what the number actually was for how many first round picks this man was able to accumulate in this decade.
Yeah, and now you already got a good team, so you're just going to be every year just going to be building and building and building.
And if you don't want to use those picks, because a lot of them are from other teams, so it's not you doing it. Doesn't. Right. You're not being penalized by doing good. You're hoping other teams are doing bad.
Yeah, but you as you were going to say, I know you're going to say you have all these picks to go for a star, another one.
Yeah, you have the ammunition to trade for somebody that's The Clippers have attempted to do this, and they are failing miserably. It's what happens when you'd think that they saw what the Lakers did. Was it last year and the year before that when they basically assembled a team that would have been the 2015 All-Star team, and it failed?
Yeah.
And you wonder why it fails. You have no depth. You have the Mavs should be showing that you can have stars, but if you get too many of them, you're going to sacrifice those guys that come off the bench because when you have three somewhat injury-prone veterans, guess what? You need guys that are going to miss games, meaning you need guys off the bench, and when you have nobody coming off the bench, you're going to lose those games.
Yeah, and like you said, I like the Lakers reference because the Lakers are a great example of having that, star, in quotation, star power when you have Russ, AD, and LeBron. But then you realize, okay, well, this isn't working out, and midway through the season they trade Russ. They're a little bit of an over 500 team if they were. I don't even remember.
Yeah, I don't either.
And then they get all these pieces. They get D'Angelo Russell. They get Jared Vanderbilt. They get a lot of other pieces that are good at their own things, and the Lakers make the Western Conference Finals. It's like
you can't chase.
You see what happens when you build a good team. just from not the most recognizable names.
Well, and I think, Harden, I can't remember the Mavs broadcaster's name, but the guy that went in on James Harden,
Yeah.
calling him the problem, he's right.
He's 100% right.
He's 100. I mean, if you fail at a couple locations, it's easy to say, well, maybe it was the situation, right? I am someone that is willing to give benefit of the doubt, like with, again, using another example, Josh Hader. If the metaphor I like to use, or the example I like to use is Hader, didn't want to pitch 2 innings because he didn't want to sacrifice his arm or anything like that. And I understand that, because what he feels like is, I'm taking a paper cup on the Titanic and I'm scooping out water.
Right.
I can't unsink the sinking ship. So I understand why he put, in air quotes here, quote, quit on the team. Right. But when it's Harden, who it seems to be, there is no way that every organization you are in has dysfunction, or as much as you try to claim it is. You're a great player, one of the best offensive talents I've ever seen, but you probably will never win a championship.
No.
You just won't. I mean, you go at Houston was probably your best bet, honestly, just staying there.
Like, imagine if, all the talks before the season started, if he was maybe going back to Houston as a reunion, right? Imagine he was there now with the team and the young core that they have, and it's working. They're 8-7 with, people aren't talking about him enough. But imagine you had a guy like James Harden with that team. You have Fred VanVleet, you have James Harden, you have Dylan Brooks, you have Alperen Sengun, who is an unbelievable center, by the way. He is unbelievable. One of my favorite players to watch. He's baby Jokic without that 3-ball, without the 3-ball. Excuse me. But imagine you add a guy like James Harden to that roster. Now that's a team that can win. Maybe not all of it, not the whole thing, but a team that can go deep into a playoff run, and if they're lucky, can go all the way.
Right, and I think that, again, you go from Houston. Well, there was dysfunction there, so you leave, and then where do you go? Brooklyn, right? After that, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, Brooklyn,
and then look, there's dysfunction there, and then look, there's dysfunction in Philadelphia, and now there's dysfunction in LA. Well, I don't know if he's claimed that yet, but he will eventually. And it's just, okay, eventually, it's kind of like the person who says all their exes are psychos.
Yeah.
Well, if you, 1 or 2, I'll give you, but if, all 10 of the people you've ever dated are psychos, I think you need to look in the mirror before you look at them.
Exactly.
And I think it's the same thing with Harden. He refuses to admit that he's the problem.
Yeah.
And I think, he kind of, I'm trying to think, he believes his own legend is kind of a way to say it. I mean, when you are told you're the greatest, and you feel like you're the greatest, I get as you're an athlete, you have to think you're the greatest. That's the mentality you have to have. But if that bleeds into the locker room and it bleeds into the front office and it's causing a cancer in the organization, it's not the organization that has the cancer, it's you. It may feel like it's organization, so that may be why he says the organization.
Yeah.
Because he starts the cancer and it spreads, and then once they remove the original piece, then look, the organization's fine. And, I think we could do the same thing with Phoenix. But Phoenix has a little more depth.
Yeah, they went after depth this offseason. They were making smart moves. As much as I don't like them, they were making the right moves. And, they might not be healthy. And, Bradley Beal's only played like 1 game since they've gotten him. But
injuries are, you can't plan for injuries. That's the thing, is injuries.
But Beal wasn't healthy to come into the season. True. So that was something you had to look out for. Sure, a guy like, when they went after Durant, a guy that wasn't hurt, but could have some injury problems, just, getting up there in age. But no, right. Beal was hurt coming into the year.
Right.
But they made this promise.
And then so we're going to do a little tournament update here. Only 8 teams left.
Yep.
So you got the Lakers and the Suns, Kings, Pelicans, Pacers, Celtics, and then Bucks, Knicks.
Yep.
That can go after the McDonald's Trophy. That's what I'm calling it. Really, all this is
it's getting the money.
It's the money. You get a little extra money. I don't think people really understand that athletes only get. I know it's still a ton of money, but they only get paid during the season, right? They don't get paid. It was why, if you listen to baseball players, especially before free agency, but even until probably I'd say the 80s, 90s, a lot of them had winter jobs. Like I know Nolan Ryan sold. I think he sold air conditioning in the winter. Or heating, and because they didn't really need AC in December in Texas. Right. But that's because, they got paid pretty well during the season. But when you get to the off season, you're getting $0. Yeah. So you need to get an income. So I think some people don't realize that. So it's just a way to get the players a little more income, a little more money. especially those bench players that aren't paid as much. And I think the coaches, and I think probably all the trainers. I'm sure everyone in the organization gets a little bit of bonus.
Yeah, I'm sure, but I mean, in this day and age, a lot of the guys out there, especially the big guys, they're making so much money.
It's just a little bit of it's Christmas spending money.
Right, exactly, pretty much.
So the tournament doesn't matter. I like it. I like the idea of it. I think it only works in basketball. I don't think it works in hockey. I especially don't think it works in baseball.
Yeah.
But we will see. We will see. So, Chase, is there anything on basketball that you'd like to add? I mean,
I think when it comes to the Mavs, I think they just got to keep playing the way they're playing. You mentioned before we started talking that Dorian Finney-Smith was a target for them. There was 4 teams out today as just potential landing spots. Mavericks were obviously one of them. I'm trying to find here.
I mean, just speak on it before while you look. He definitely fits here.
Oh, yeah. So here it is. The Heat, Mavericks, Sixers, and Grizzlies. This is from a reliable source.
Ooh, the Grizzlies would be interesting. I mean, it's just as a basketball fan.
Yeah. I think the Sixers would be interesting. I mean, but I feel like they got guys like that. They have guys like Tobias Harris, who kind of, already fits that role with it. And he's a better offensive player than Finney-Smith. But I mean, I think, from a DFS perspective, I think that he would want to come back here.
He knows the coaches, he knows the system, he knows most of the players.
Yeah, I mean, pretty much all of them.
I think he understood that when you're getting Kyrie, most players, they get pissed when they get traded. But when you're being traded for Kyrie Irving, I would think that gives you a confidence boost. Like, man, this other team thinks of me that highly to think that I'm part of the return for Kyrie. Wow, that's big.
And wouldn't it be nice to just get Kyrie from them and then get Finney-Smith right back? So pretty much it would just been Dinwiddie for.
Do you think he'll cost a lot?
Finney-Smith?
Yeah.
See, that's the thing. I don't know if we're going to offer a player.
Do you think that Dwight Powell could be in that deal? As Mavericks fans, I think we'd all love to see him get dealt.
No, I don't think so.
You don't think he's enough, or you don't want to see him get dealt?
Both. I think that he still has, and I like the role that he's playing this season as, Rashawn Holmes is getting more minutes now.
I like that, though.
Behind Lively. So
I forgot about Holmes.
Yeah, so Powell's that third big that comes into the game, but he will give you that spark, and he will give you that hustle, and, he'll go out there, get some rebounds, play some good defense, do what you need to do, but he's not that guy you're going to be relying on late in the game. So I think Powell on the team is just a good guy to have on your roster.
Yeah. I did want to mention that about Holmes. I completely, when I watched Lively get injured and he came home, I'm like, oh my gosh, I forgot that we traded for Rashawn Holmes.
Yeah.
I completely, because it was a pretty big offseason for the Mavericks, adding a bunch of players.
Yeah, did what they needed to do.
And then you almost added, who was the guy from, no, it wasn't him. It was the guy from, I think from Portland. We almost added.
Matisse Thybulle.
Matisse Thybulle, yeah. We almost added him too.
But he's been, it was a funny stat. Like, everyone was like mad that we didn't get him. And then some guy tweeted that the other day of what he's done this year. He's barely playing. He's barely putting up any numbers. I mean, maybe but he's in Portland, so it's like you're getting the opportunity.
Yeah, we'll see.
So something is going on here. It's like, if you're not getting minutes in Portland, what's going on?
The rumor that I heard was that he really wanted to come here, and Portland nixed it. So I think
he did.
It could just be he's pissed off at Portland for not letting him go.
Hey, you got a good amount of money though. You can't be that mad.
We'll see. So, moving on to baseball, and it is again my privilege to remind everybody that the Texas Rangers are World Series champions. Again, we'll be mentioning that every week until the season starts. Almost a month ago, and we're starting to get all the. I had a Facebook story memory today. See if I can find it. It was a story I made. It was talking about. We also added Cole Calhoun. MLB free agency has been crazy. Hopefully, the Rangers get either Trevor Story or Corey Seager. Little did I know that we would be getting Corey Seager, and then little did I know that 2 years later, 2 years to the date that we'd be getting Corey Seager, I'd be able to call ourselves World Series champion.
Yeah.
And
what do you know?
And Corey Seager was World Series MVP, so it makes me very happy. And again, I
manifested it.
I manifested it. I love to mention that my dad, that we talked about before that free agency, because well, hey, we're gonna spin, and my dad was, yeah, I'll believe when I see it. I'm like, okay, well, if we do, who do you want? He's like, well, I want Corey Seager. I'm like, well, I'm like, well, Seager would be cool, but I don't think he's going to come here. I'd rather have Trevor Story. Because I thought Story was more realistic to wanting to come play for Texas. I think he's either from here he's from here. I'm like, it fits. He won't be as expensive, but then we got Simeon and Seager, and I was like, wow.
And then Story ended up playing an amazing 20 total games throughout the regular season.
Hey,
Yeah.
it wasn't that I didn't want Seager. It was simply that, I didn't think he'd come
It
here.
was unrealistic. Sure.
As a Rangers fan, I grew up in the era where who wants to come to Texas? It's hot. We're not very good. Really, after Adrian Beltre, who was our most significant free agent signing? Shin Soo-Choo. And then,
Yeah.
Not counting trades. That was like Prince Fielder was a trade. But I'm trying to think, who was a significant player? Hunter Pence, but at the end of his career,
Not San Francisco Pence anymore.
How about that 2019 year was kind of a bit of a free agency splurge. It was what I have dubbed the Tommy John experiment year because we signed Edinson Volquez, Shelby Miller, and Drew Smiley, who were all three coming off Tommy Johns as a rotation. It was those three guys behind Lynn and Minor.
Yeah,
and that was
Lynn was good.
Lynn was good, and then that was when Minor just completely his arm just gave out.
Yeah,
he just didn't have it anymore. But going to the MLB offseason, we got some, obviously, the winter meetings are next week. The contemporary ballot will be announced, so that's, the managers. Again, we talked about this, I think, a few weeks ago. My ballot remains the same, which is Lou Piniella, Jim Leland, Davey Johnson, and Bill White. You can make a case for any of those guys. When you get to the when you get to this kind of ballot, where it's managers and executives and umpires, it's hard to quantify their contributions to baseball. So I just kind of look at longevity. That's why Bill White gets in, because he was a broadcaster. He was president of the National League. He was a player. He was an executive. He literally has his foot in a lot of different corners. Then obviously I think that in the managers are a little more fun to put in because they're the easiest of the ones to quantify. Umpires are just
make it Angel Hernandez.
Like Joe West is probably going to get in the Hall of Fame one day because of how long he did it and the fact that he was a significant umpire. But I think there's three other managers. I think Lou Piniella is a Hall of Famer, should be. And I know he's going in as a manager, but I think his playing career you kind of have to consider a little bit because he was a good player for the Yankees. Then Leland's a Hall of Famer. If Leland is the one, if he doesn't get in, I'm gonna be mad. He's the only one that if the other ones, I'd like Piniella to get in. I think David Johnson deserves to get in. I think that Bill White deserves to get in. But the one that I think is a no-brainer is Jim Leland. World Series champion with the Marlins. Was great with the Marlins before Wayne Huizenga tore the team down. We don't talk about Colorado because his managing style did not clashed with the home run heaviness of Colorado's ballpark. He was even quoted as saying this isn't baseball. Yeah. about the because you're winning 10-9. He liked to win 3-1. Then obviously with Detroit was a powerhouse. So I think he's a Hall of Fame manager. And then obviously with Pittsburgh before he was in Miami was great. They came this close to going to the World Series. If Sid Bream was out, if Barry Bonds didn't throw the ball up the first baseline, Bream is out. There's the baseline, so it caused the catcher. I can't remember who the catcher was. My dad probably just yelled at who the catcher's name was through his phone. But the Rule 5 draft is next week. That's why you kind of haven't seen a lot of trades yet happen because everyone's waiting to see the Rule 5. Everyone's waiting to see which prospects do I not have. Usually that's what happens. And then the draft lottery. So a new little thing to add to the MLB offseason. Obviously, last year was the last year we were in it, and we lucked into the number 4 overall pick.
Beautiful.
I was actually in a movie. I don't remember. I think it may have been Ant-Man. It was a movie that I was watching. No, it wasn't Ant-Man. It was something else. And I'm watching it, and I have a screen on low brightness, and I'm
one of those people with their phones on in the movie theaters.
Hey! It was the draft lottery, and the Rangers. It mattered this year. I wouldn't because it doesn't matter to me. But personally, I'm like, if we get the number 1 overall pick, I'm gonna have to walk outside the theater and start screaming. And then they announced number. I think we're supposed to have number 7. So I'm like, okay, number 7 is it us? No, it's not. Then number 6 is not us. Number 5 is not us. Then number 4, and I was like, yes! I was so happy. And then we lucked.
And then we struck.
Wyatt Langford just fell right into
Hit
our
it out
lap.
of the park.
And there's talk of him breaking camp next year. I don't think so, but
there's a lot of talk about him being opening day left fielder.
No, we already have a left fielder.
Yeah,
Devin Carter.
Well, it's just everyone would want to move Evan to center. And
people, I'm going to say this, and I'm going to keep saying it, and I probably said it before, and I'm going to keep saying it. Please quit asking to trade everybody. Well, let's just trade Duran. Let's trade Smith. Let's trade Tavares. Let's trade. No, there's one thing you don't mess with in sports, and any sports fan should understand this. It's called chemistry.
Chemistry. Yep.
Don't mess with the chemistry. There's a reason why NBA 2K has it as an actual like thing in the game where if your chemistry's bad, you're going to lose a little more games. It matters. It really, really matters. The example I will continue to use is after 1986, the Mets were, drinking beer and doing some, not nice guy things off the field. And they were not nice guys on the field. And then in that offseason, they let Ray Knight go, and then they traded Kevin Mitchell. And obviously that was because they had Howard Johnson to play third base, and they brought in Kevin McReynolds to play the outfield, to take Kevin Mitchell's spot. And even guys, and then they come back in '87 in spring training, and I never forget in the documentary, Bob Ojeda was just like, it was different. It wasn't, Knight and Mitchell were tough, gritty. Those just kind of, if we're gonna get into a fight, I'm gonna, Kevin Mitchell's the guy putting one of the other guys in a, big old,
right.
headlock. And he said McReynolds and Hojo were just, They were good players. Not they were bad players, but their personalities were just kind of mellow. They weren't suited for our team, so you mess with the chemistry. You never got close.
Yeah.
They made the playoffs a couple times, but they never got close. You can say because of Good and Strawberry, but I think hearing that from the players in '87, just hearing the chemistry was off. They didn't. You two players is all it took for them to feel like it was different. Trading to and again, I look at anything that came from the Rangers media. Who were the three players that were always together? Duran,
Garcia,
Tavares, and Tavares.
Yep.
All three of them. They had a barbecue together. I know that they're professionals and they understand it's a business, but you don't want to trade one or two of them, and then now Garcia's pissed, or now Garcia feels lonely, or Garcia feels bad, or whatever. You don't want to screw with the chemistry. Tavares has been a very good center fielder.
Yeah.
Clearly, you can win a World Series with him as your center fielder. Don't mess with it. I would bring Wyatt Langford, that's what I like to say. Wyatt Langford. I'd bring him in to DH. Not that he's or platoon with Carter, because if Carter still can't hit left, he's coming out of the camp. Whatever you want to do, but you're gonna have four good outfielders, and you're gonna have to get rid of somebody, but you're gonna have to figure out what you want to do.
I know you don't. You're just the point you just made about Duran, but I think Duran is a piece that might be able to move.
He is expendable as hell.
He's still got a lot more talent that can be shown.
I'm gonna use if you were the White Sox, and obviously there's talks about Dylan Cease being on the trading block. Duran would be the first guy I'd ask for because he's MLB ready, so you know that he's not going to take time in the minors.
Right.
He can come in and play. Oh, where would he play? I don't know where he'd play on that team. I haven't looked at the White Sox, so
what's it?
He may play shortstop.
Who's in right?
He may play. Well, they're going to have Vaughn. Their outfield's set. They have Eloy and Vaughn and Benintendi and Robert.
Did Eloy even play in the outfield much last year, or was he just strictly a DH?
I think he would probably play shortstop. If I can't think who their shorts, because if Anderson's gone.
Yeah.
So I think he'd probably play shortstop. So he fits really well on that team. If you're a team like that, or the Pirates, Bednar, that wants to contend fairly soon, he's a great piece to add. He's a great piece to add because he can play multiple positions and he can hit, and he's still developing.
Mm-hmm.
He's young, but I'm not saying I won't be mad if we trade him. I'm worried if we do. I just don't want it to mess up the chemistry of the clubhouse.
Yeah.
Because that was one thing you heard about guys like Scherzer. Man, it's really fun here. I'm having there were a lot of stories about them eating hot dogs before games. Right. It was a fun story, and Creed and all that. And
Seager's MVP, talk with Kevin Burkhardt. It's like, what was the main chemistry piece that kept y'all going? He said cards. They're playing cards in the clubhouse. That's something that every team needs.
You don't if a guy leaves in free agency like Garver, or if a guy is retires, then that's different than you trading a guy.
Yeah.
Right. That's a little bit different feel. And
his choice, sir.
Personally, I'm just worried.
No, I agree with you.
I don't want to mess the chemistry up. I don't want to be saying in 10 years how great the 1 year of success we had was, and then they traded everybody because the fans wanted to, because the fans think it's a freaking video game, and you can just trade players for whatever you want, and you're fine.
Yeah.
It's all the same video game where you could trade Miguel Cabrera and Albert Pujols' contract because there's no trade logic on that. So I am worried about trading him. You could get a lot. Tavares is the same thing. You get a lot for Tavares.
Of course.
Because he's an MLB-ready center fielder who could still get better, who's still showing signs of improvement. Plays Gold Glove level defense. It's great. Of course you want him. If we walk into the same team, clearly we've seen this team win a World Series, so I'm not worried.
Yeah.
If you
just fix up the pen a little bit, and then
fix up the pin a little bit, and I'm going to segue this into Ohtani rumors. As you were saying before the show here, it sounds like it's down to the Dodgers, us, and Toronto.
Yeah, it was just like I was saying before the show that the Blue Jays just got their rumor. But it's like you always see these rumors with the Giants and the Cubs.
See, I'm gonna throw the Giants in there because I think the Giants have that they really want either him or Yamamoto.
Of course. But you always look to see with all these rumors, who are those two teams that are in every single rumor?
Right.
Dodgers and the Rangers. So clearly, I think that the Rangers and the Dodgers are the top two landing spots for him. I would say that the Dodgers are still the number one spot for sure.
The Mariners still, I think, have to be in the mix. I know they've talked about
I know, and there's been one report, and then it's like on the new one, but guess who's still there? Dodgers and the Rangers. I think it's coming down to the two teams. It's kind of cool. I think that Ohtani could be in a Rangers uniform next year.
I think it's kind of same thing with DeGrom last year. It's like he's not going to come here.
Right.
There's no way, right? There's no way that this guy comes here. I mean, like, there's no way, right? You know, like, no, right? I think that's kind of where I'm at. Is it doesn't feel like it could actually happen
Until it does.
And John Moore of Rangers podcast and other stuff that he does was talking about how he's getting an Ohtani to Texas vibe. It's a gut feeling, and I remember reading that going, I agree with him. There's just something inside that's just telling me it's going to happen. You just got to believe. Because it was the same thing with DeGrom last year.
If he wasn't with the Angels, I'd feel more confident. Because, like, do you really want to go?
Yeah.
You can stay in LA.
If I was Ohtani, I hate the Angels. I want to stick it to them 13 times a year. Because
yeah.
They screwed me over, in a way. They didn't put anybody around me. Screw them. Me and Trout. I feel bad for Trout. Get free my boy Mike Trout is what Ohtani is going to be saying. Which I still think Trout's going to be gone this year. I think he's going to be a surprise. Like, no one's expecting it, and then
where does he land?
I think Philadelphia.
Okay.
Either that or the Dodgers. I think if the Dodgers miss an Ohtani, they may pivot to Trout.
There was talks about them getting both.
There's talk about them getting both, which would be, I just want to say, the most cruel irony would be, and I'm not saying it's going to happen, let's say 2024, Dodgers win the World Series with Ohtani and Trout in their lineup. Literally, how many miles from Anaheim? That'd be hilarious. Yeah. Hilarious. I mean, but if also Ohtani, I don't want to go to the Rangers. I'm pissed off at either that or the Dodgers. Because there's the proximity to the Angels.
Right, exactly. There's two different scenarios where like you can still get back at the Angels where you move 2 feet down the road, or you play them 13 times a year.
Or screw them. I'm gonna go 13-0 against this team. It feels kind of like DeGrom again last year, where there's no way he's coming, but like I think it is gonna happen. It's the same feeling I had with DeGrom, which was again, there's no way it's gonna happen. Like not wanting to believe it could happen, but in my gut, just feeling like. It sounds right. It feels right. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It just feels like this is what's going to happen. It is. Like, yeah, this is it for us. I'd be excited, and in Chris Young we trust. Aaron Bummer got traded for a haul. Chris Getz.
Yeah, it was a great deal for the White Sox.
Chris Getz needs to be investigated for what he did and what else was traded. I don't know if he gave up like a car or he traded away like a private island. But he sent Aaron Bummer, and I like Bummer. Had a great year 2 years ago, and I think last year could have just been a product of the dysfunction of Chicago. But they got Nicky Lopez and Braden Shoemake and Riley Goen, some prospects, right? And Nicky Lopez is a good backup infielder, utility man. Then I was like, oh, they got Jared Schuster. That's a notable pitching prospect. And then I'm like, they got Mike Soroka, who I know he's had injury problems, and he may never be the same. But if he is the same, there's you a nice guy to pair with Kopech and Cease if you keep him. It's one of those, in 3 years, we could be looking at it going, wow, that trade was awful.
Yeah.
Oh, but right now, because those are all lottery tickets, we don't know what they're all going to be. The feeling right now is the White Sox won that trade. But in 3 years, they could have lost it. Don't know. We'll see. Sonny Gray is going to go to the Cardinals. We know the
Cardinals building a retirement home.
I still think they're doing good.
Yeah, I do. I'm just going off of what people were saying.
It's funny because Miles Michaelis, and I think the funniest part is so they had the league leader, I think in like hits, I think was Michaelis, the league leader in innings pitched, which I think was one of the. I think it was one of them. No. League leader in home runs was Lynn. League leader, and one of them was
they added Lynn.
Was Gibson. One of the ones was Michaelis, and so it's like, are they going to go after Jordan Lyles or other guys that led the league in innings pitched, and they're going to go the league leaders. But Gray, 3 years, 75 with another fourth year for another $30 million. So it's a good deal.
It's a good deal. Sonny Gray's a great pitcher.
Same thing with Gibson and Lynn. That rotation with Steven Matz and Miles Michael. That's a great rotation. It's a lot of solid number like 2s and 3s.
Yeah,
with maybe a couple 4s.
I mean, Gray's an ace.
Gray's an ace. Gray's an opening day number 1. Lynn and Gibson are kind of number 3s and 4s now. Michaelis is like a number 5, and Match is a good number 4. So you've got a good.
No 2 there though. It's like
he's gonna be 2 there. But I'm saying if he was on the Rangers,
right,
he'd be like a 3 or 4. So I think they're building a good team over there. At least their problem was pitching, and I still think they need to fire Ollie Marmol. That's just me. Kenta Maeda to Detroit, 2 years, $24 million. I mean, it's a good move. You needed pitching.
Yeah.
You need someone to replace Erod if he doesn't come back. That division's just so awful. That division is just so bad that you need to be about 85 wins, and you're probably going to win the division.
Does it surprise you that another in-division, central team like the Twins traded them to another?
Well, and the thing is the Twins are cutting payroll. They may be trading Jorge Polanco. They may be trading, and if we didn't have Seager, I'd be all in on Polanco.
Yeah.
They may be trading other guys. They let Gray go. So, they're going to be regressing.
It's weird.
It's like nobody wants to win that division. I understand that why you'd be cautious, because you look over at the West and you look over at the East and you realize that you're probably not even a 4th place team in most. I mean, you're what? You're not as good as the Blue Jays, even though you beat them. I know you beat them. The Twins beat them, but
right,
they're not going to be as good as the Blue Jays next year. You're not as good as the Orioles.
Might not be as good as the Yankees next year. Who knows?
You may not be as good as the Yankees. You're not as good as the Rays. The Rays.
Yeah.
Who's the other team? You may not be even as
Red Sox.
good as the freaking Red Sox.
Yeah.
And you look in the West, you're not as good as the Rangers, you're not as good as the Mariners, and you're not as good as the Astros. Especially if what the Twins have been saying they're going to do is going to happen, then you're in a place where you're going to win 85 games, maybe, and win that division, and then get stomped in the first round by one of the East or West juggernauts.
Right.
I mean, that's the reality. That's the reality of the situation. But not much more in baseball. Again, we'll update next week's the winter meetings. So a lot of things will be happening. So we'll see.
Yeah.
College football. We're bringing back college football this week because there's a lot of big news. Obviously, the college football playoff, but Michigan, Ohio State was everything it should have been. A lot of NFL talent. I think it's gonna be a game that we look at, next season and go, man, remember that game last year when 12 of those guys are now in the NFL. No, it was one of those kind of games. So Marvin Harrison Jr. looked good. Michigan looked good. Obviously, a guy I went to high school with is left tackle for Michigan, number 73, Ladarius Henderson. And then a teammate of mine's on Ohio State, Calvin Simpson Hunt, just got his black stripe removed, I think a couple weeks ago. So he's now officially, red stripe Buckeye. So good for him. So I was either one wins. I'm not pulling for anybody. I want to see either of my guys win. Michigan won. It was a great game. It's a great game.
It's a good game.
Ohio State's a quarterback away.
Yeah.
I mean, it was Ohio State was just a little bit too little, too late.
Yeah.
And it was a really good game. But now it's championship weekend, and it's the last championship weekend that's going to look like a championship weekend because Pac-12 is gone. I don't know how the Big Ten and Big 12 and everything else is going to really react next year because you're adding so many good teams. This is the last year where I think a lot of these teams may be in the Iowa's not going to be in the Big Ten championship next year.
No.
I don't remember who's adding who, but Pac-12 is going to be gone essentially unless they can add Southeastern California State. I mean, that's what they have to add. I mean, who's left? Who's left? Nobody.
Yeah.
Nobody's left. So, and then now instead of Pac-12 after dark, it's going to be Mountain Western after dark. It's going to be
literally.
It's going to be Boise State and those guys. It's going to be Fresno's in the Mountain Western, right? They're not Pac.
Yeah.
So,
well,
you'll get that.
Yeah.
I don't like the realignment because now you're going to have those West Coast teams going out to almost to the middle of the country, almost to the East Coast because of where Rutgers is and Penn State. They're touching East Coast.
Mm-hmm.
You're going to make guys go coast to coast. I don't like the travel. I mean, it'll definitely prepare you for the NFL a little bit more, but it'll be interesting.
College students,
The
guys
college
our
students.
age, it's crazy.
Do you see that Delaware is going to be a Conference USA team, I think, in 2 years?
Yeah, good for them.
So I want to see James Madison join somewhere.
Yeah, and did you see that they got a bowl game, James Madison?
Finally.
Yeah,
I saw that. Same thing with Liberty, because Liberty is, what is Liberty? Are they an independent team?
no, they're in Conference USA.
Are you sure?
Yeah,
They are?
yeah.
I thought they were an independent team.
No, they're in Conference USA.
But Liberty's doing good. They're undefeated. They're ranked, which is big for them. But college football, this weekend has a lot of playoff implications. Because if Georgia loses, it's one of those, okay, it comes down to they're on Conference USA. I think they were independent last year or the year before that.
Probably.
Because I
don't remember.
Anyway.
So there's a lot of ways to look at this college football conference championship weekend.
Because if Milroe goes off, which I like Jaden Milroe.
Oh yeah, officially, Alabama had their struggles with quarterback and who was going to be who. They tried different ones, but Milroe's their guy.
He's the best guy.
Milroe.
He's young. Nick Saban, you don't have Bryce Young back there anymore. Realize that. Hey, look, you don't have an elite quarterback. You have a good quarterback.
Yeah.
You can still win with that. If Alabama beats Georgia, it's going to come down to the debate. Do you put in the 4 best teams? Or do you put in the 4 best records? Because we could all agree that Georgia's probably the most talented roster in college football. Most likely. Like on paper. Now you put it on the field, obviously like they could lose. But it's the same thing with Florida State. Does Florida State if they win,
I mean, they're not going to go far in the playoff.
Say they're playing Louisville, right?
Yeah, so the games, it's going to be for the ACC, it is Florida State and Louisville.
So if they lose, Jordan Travis is out. He's done.
Yeah.
Donezo.
Louisville is the favorite.
He's going to the NFL.
Yeah.
If Florida State wins, do you put them in?
Yeah, you have to. They're undefeated. You have to.
The thing is, they're going to get destroyed.
Yeah.
You put them up against Washington, Michigan. You put them against even like Texas. Put them against Georgia. Put them up against like probably 6 or 7 other teams. They're probably still a top 15 team, even without Jordan Travis. They're not a top 4 team.
No.
It's one of those. Okay, how do you justify? Do you believe in the 4 best rosters? Because if that, Jordan Travis knocks them out. And not having your quarterback, same thing with Penix. If Penix was out, I don't care who they have at receiver. I don't care who they have in their defense. Can't put him in. But at the same time, you know what I mean? You put in the 4 best records. So it's almost like I'm rooting for Louisville because I don't want to see Florida State in the playoffs. Because I think it's going to be a bad game.
No, I'm rooting for Louisville, and I'm going to talk as a Texas fan now, perspective. And what Texas needs to happen for them to still get in, because they have a shot.
How can Texas? Okay, because you have...
So Georgia, I'll just go over the games real quick. Michigan versus Iowa in the Big Ten. Michigan's going to win that game. They're locked. And if they somehow lose, they're out. But they're not going to. In the ACC, you got Louisville and Florida State. SEC, you got Georgia and Alabama. Pac-12, you got Oregon and Washington. Big 12, you have Oklahoma State and Texas, right? So for Texas to get their ticket into the college football playoff,
they got to win.
They got to win by a good margin, by pretty 2 to 3 scores for sure.
I think they will.
You'd hope so. One of Washington or Oregon's going to lose, and one of them's going to be out. Whoever loses is out.
It'll probably be Oregon being losing.
I don't know, man. I don't know. I think when they played, back in the regular season, it was a fantastic game that Washington squeaked out.
We'll see.
Oregon's looking good, really good right now.
I don't like
Washington
Bo
struggle versus Washington State.
I don't like Bo Nix
as a person because he's a fantastic quarterback.
As a player, I don't like him as a player.
Really?
He was not good at Auburn's gone to Oregon and is thriving in a system that I don't think can work in the NFL. As a scout.
But that's but we're talking right now about college football, and he is one of the best quarterbacks in college football.
So part of me is hoping,
if not the best.
Part of me is hoping that he doesn't win because I don't want to hear all the Bo Nix first round and stuff. He's not a first round quarterback.
So if Washington wins, they'll stay where they are. Oregon will drop, and if Texas wins, they go up. But you're gonna need Louisville to at least make Florida State struggle if they're not going to win. But if Louisville wins, Florida State's done. Bama and Georgia, I think you want Georgia to win.
I'd say you want Bama to win because you beat Bama.
Yeah. But
So
college football's not going to look away from an SEC team, so it's like...
Yeah, but you also know that there's no way you can justify voting for Bama over Texas when Texas beat Bama.
Yeah.
So I think Bama understands and they need Texas to lose to try and get in.
Yeah, and then you win.
And everyone needs Oregon to win. I think everyone needs Washington to lose. The thing is, if Oregon wins, do they get in? Because
that's the thing. It's like you want Washington to win because Oregon right now is the 6th seed, and Texas is the 7. Washington's already, got their spot right now. So if Washington wins, nothing happens. Oregon just goes down.
And you probably want Bama to win because I don't think a win over Georgia seals it for Alabama. I don't think just beating Georgia gets you into the top 4. If Texas wins and Washington wins and if Florida State loses, so let's think like this. There's 4 teams. If Florida State loses, they're out. So that's 3 spots. Yeah. Okay? Michigan's going to win, so there's 1 spot. If Washington wins, that's 2 spots. I'm trying to think who else?
Georgia.
If Georgia loses, then I think Georgia's out. So now who fills those other 2 spots? Is it Texas and Alabama?
Could be.
Is it, who is it? Because you've already got Washington and Michigan.
Because Michigan would be the 1. Washington would be the 2. You put Texas at the 3.
Who cares at the 1 and 2? I'm just saying.
Whatever. You make it in, it doesn't matter.
Yeah. You make it in, let's see. Especially with this year, because it's not Georgia running the table. Ohio State's out.
Yeah. Ohio State's out.
They're out because they can't.
They don't have a game. They're not playing.
They're not in the conference. So that'll be a fun bowl game. They're going to wipe the floor again.
Yeah.
But, look, they're playing.
Depends if they play their guys.
They're playing Utah.
I don't know if Marvin Harrison Jr. will play more than a quarter.
The thing is, I'm playing the second half, so make sure we win. With the college football playoff, so Washington's probably going to let's say they beat Oregon, so they're in. But even if Washington, whoever wins the Pac-12 is probably going to be in.
Yeah,
so let's just say that.
100%.
So we'll say
they will flip-flop. If Oregon wins, they will flip-flop.
We'll say Pac-12 champions in. Okay? Michigan's going to be in. They're going to kick the crap out of Iowa. Okay? So then now you got 2 spots. Again, we're back to this. If Texas loses, you're out.
Yep, Texas loses, they're done.
If Florida State wins, I still don't know if you vote for them because of Jordan Travis. I hate doing this to that team because they've all worked super hard. But if they go up against Michigan, what can that team do against Michigan?
I mean, you still got to look at it. I know this is going to sound like crazy, but it's just one player. I know it's your guy.
It's
I know
the quarterback.
I understand. That's why I said it. I know it's Jordan Travis. I understand, but you still have all that talent around you everywhere. That defense is still the same. You still got the run game. You still got the pass game. You still got the offensive line.
Let's see how you look against Louisville. Let's see how you look.
Yeah.
See how you look.
I mean, we know Florida could have won that game.
Yeah. Let's just see how you look against Louisville, and we'll go from there.
Yeah.
But let's say Florida State loses. So now, and let's say they win now. That's 3 spots. That means Texas and Bama are fighting for that last spot.
If Georgia wins,
if Georgia wins,
and Texas wins by anywhere from 14 to 21.
If Georgia wins, it'll be Georgia, Michigan, Florida State, and Pac-12 champion. Texas ain't got a prayer. This is what I'm saying is Texas has got to root for Alabama because you need Bama to win so that Georgia opens up the spot for you. You need Florida State to lose to open up. Well,
I think if Florida State loses and Texas wins by a good amount,
Texas should be in.
Texas should be in. You're not going to look away from Texas.
So it'll be Texas, Washington, Michigan, Georgia.
That's what I think.
That's
what I think is the most likely to happen. Because the most likely thing to happen is that Louisville does beat Florida State just because they're down Jordan Travis, and you think that Texas is going to go out there and Oklahoma State's a good team, but you think Texas should hopefully take care of business by 14 to 21 points is what you hope, and Texas gets that 4th spot.
We have a transfer. Max Johnson is transferred to UNC. Can be Drake May's successor.
Okay,
and for the Tar Heels. So that is kind of where we're at.
Yeah. It's going to be a very interesting weekend.
It's going to be interesting to see who wins. Yeah. I'm going to be watching, definitely. So
it's cool because every single game except, even the Michigan-Iowa game obviously has, importance. If Iowa wins, then...
If Iowa pulls one out, then does Michigan still get in?
No.
Well, then how can you justify yeah.
It's just some of these games might come down to how the outcome of the game is. Like if Iowa beats Michigan and then Washington beats Oklahoma or Oregon 48 to 45, Oregon still might get in because they had I don't know.
We'll see.
I don't know.
We
really just don't know what's going to happen.
We will recap it all on Wednesday.
Yeah.
Now to move to the NFL.
Yeah.
Aaron Rodgers is somehow back from an Achilles injury.
Unbelievable.
Look, if he's with some doctors and it's safe, then cool. But I am worried for his safety because I'm worried he takes one hit. If he comes back and re-tears it, he's out. His career's over.
Listen, it all comes down to if the Jets have a playoff chance. That's all it does.
They
And if they keep,
probably
if they, I agree with you. If they keep losing, Rodgers ain't coming back. They win, they got a shot.
Garrett
Like last game of the season, if they win, they're in.
I mean,
Rodgers might be on that field.
Not Garrett Wilson. Zach Wilson's cooked. Tim Boyle could barely make the XFL. So I mean, like,
I don't know.
you don't have anything. You have nothing.
You need your defense to score 14 points a game.
And maybe your offense gets you like 3 or 4 field goals.
Exactly.
But moving from week 12, I don't want to recap every single game but we'll recap some of the big ones. So Thanksgiving, Packers beat the Lions. Wish I'd taken the Packers. I could have gained another one on you. So I gained one on Chase this week. The comeback is on. I am maintaining it. The comeback is on. Obviously, the Cowboys beat the Commanders. Look, Deron Bland, he got the record.
History.
I would have said he's number 2 DPOY, but if Garrett's out and he misses a significant amount of time, Bland's going to have a shot at DPOY.
Yeah, of course.
Look,
I think he's got to be in the discussion.
I know people are going to say that some of the Cowboys homers, well, he got the record. Yeah, he got a record. That's so cool. To me, and I hate the fact that kind of pass rushers can affect the game, I think, more than a corner can, because here's the thing. Corners, because each one is a little bit kind of mutual. They have a very symbiotic relationship. If the corners lock down, the secondary, then the pass rusher is going to get there eventually, make them look good. If the pass rusher is getting there really quickly, it's going to make the corners look good. So you kind of need each other. So it's kind of interesting to see how do you debate.
I mean, guys like Danielle Hunter, who's leading the league in sacks. You don't hear him. You don't hear him in that conversation.
Well, I think people are starting to realize that sacks aren't everything. Sacks are kind of a product of, does the quarterback hold on to the ball?
Right.
I actually look at pressures and hurries and stuff like that a little more than
Look
sacks.
at that. Mike is up there.
Because, I mean, sacks are cool. I'm not saying sacks aren't cool. Sacks are great. But look, if you're going to say sacks are the end-all, be-all, then the Cowboys have not a great pass rush. Because we don't have a ton of sacks. We have a lot. We do. But they kind of come in bunches because teams throw the ball quickly against us. So we don't, you know what I mean? Like the pass rushers get there, they're getting the ball out. It's unfortunate. So you're not getting as many sacks as you could.
Right.
So I look at the pressures and the hurries, and then how many times are you affecting the play with your pass rush? We're up there near the top. Mike is not DPOY just because he doesn't have the sack numbers, unfortunately.
Yeah, no, Mike is not defensive player of the year.
I think he'll be in the conversation again as usual. But
maybe. Yeah.
Garrett, if he's hurt, he's out. Hunter, TJ Watt, these guys have to be in the conversation. I think Watt's not hurt.
No, Watt's fine.
Because Watt usually hurts. I'm thinking, like, he's not hurt, right? But Bland's got to be up there. I mean, if you're going to talk
Bland's above Micah.
If you're going to talk about any corners, I think Bland's got to be the first corner that you bring up. Because there's to me, now to other people, there's only one way to define a DPOY corner season, which is you completely shut down the field, which Bland kind of does. He doesn't completely shut down the field because he plays in the slot and on the outside. He plays both. He doesn't completely shut down the field because he plays in the slot a little bit. He does. So you I believe if you truly affect almost every single game and you make quarterbacks afraid to throw to your side of the field, there's 2 ways to affect the game as a corner. There's 2 ways to shut down. There's one, quarterbacks don't look your way because they know it's not going to be. They know they're not going to complete the pass, or you shut down or you make quarterbacks fear you because they're like with Diggs. They're worried about getting the ball picked off.
Yeah.
And with Bland, they're worried about it's going 6 the other way. So, I mean, in almost half the games this year, we played 12 games. So, we played 11. He has 5 picks. That's over half. That's almost half. Almost half the games.
Well, he's 7 picks, but 5 pick sixes.
5 pick sixes. 5.
Crazy.
So, he's giving the conversation. Trying to think of some other big games.
The last Thanksgiving game was...
Obviously, the Texans, they lost. Freaking noodle leg Matt Amendola. Can't make a field goal and help me out. The Patriots are in official tank mode. That was the tank bowl. It was interesting. We got the hey Tommy, what's this thing called? It's the thing. It doesn't have a word. He's doing the Italian thing. Bears and Vikings was an amazing game. The guy was almost. It was one of those. Hey, it was a defensive battle. No, it wasn't. It was an offensive suck battle.
Yeah.
Ravens at Chargers was Kellen Moore and Brandon Staley should both be fired. Bills at Eagles. Last one we're going to talk about from this week. How's that not a horse collar? How's it not holding on the defense? How is that not? Look, I know it's hard to blame the refs because you could go back and say, well, what if Gabe Davis ran the post instead of the corner?
Right.
Bills win that game. None of the calls matter. What if the Bills' defense wasn't like Swiss cheese at the most crucial times, whether it's against the Chiefs or the Eagles or anybody? There's a lot of what ifs. Ticks me off because I thought they had it. I really thought they did.
Yeah.
So the division's pretty much out of reach now because let's say they lose this week to the Niners. I'm gonna do what we did for the college football playoffs.
No, this week is the most important week. Eagles win this week.
It's pretty much over because let's say the Eagles lose this week. Niners beat them, okay, and they lose to us next week, which I'm probably gonna pick to happen. That's now they have 3 losses. Cowboys win out. We already have 3 losses. Our 3 losses are to the Cardinals, Niners, and the Eagles, NFC teams. So then they'll use divisional records, right, for the tiebreaker. Well, we lost to them once. They lost to us once, and we swept the Commies and the Giants. So then you go to conference record. Well, they're going to get it then because we lost to the Niners and the Cardinals. They lost to the Jets, the Niners, and us. That's 2 NFC teams for them, 3 for us. They're going to get it.
Yeah.
That's what is making me angry is that now I was hoping the Chiefs and the Bills could get 1. I mean, if they win this week, it's over because they have I think their next toughest game would be like the Seahawks.
Yeah.
It's not happening at that point. I mean, if they can lose to the Jets, they can lose. I'm not saying they can't lose. I'm just saying I think they faced the Giants twice. They're bad. They have such an easy schedule after us, whereas we got to face after them. We got to face the Dolphins and the Bills and the Lions.
Yeah.
So, but we need the Niners to beat them this week. So here we go. Seahawks at Cowboys. So for reference, I've already made my picks. So it's just gonna be Cowboys, Seahawks. Who do you got?
Going Cowboys.
Usual. Chargers at Patriots.
Chargers.
Yeah, me too. Going Chargers. Steelers, Cardinals at Steelers.
Steelers.
Yep. Without Matt Canada. Hey, look at that offense.
Yeah, 400 yards for the first time.
Without Matt Canada.
Yeah.
It's such a bad it was such a bad offense.
Yeah.
Colts at Titans.
Give me the Colts.
Yeah, me too. I'm going the Colts. I just don't trust the Titans right now. They barely beat the Panthers. Broncos at Texans.
No Jonathan Taylor though.
Broncos at Texans.
Give me the Texans.
Yeah, me too. Lions at Saints.
Lions.
Falcons at Jets. I'm going Falcons.
I'm going Falcons as well.
Are we going to disagree at once? I don't know. I don't see any disagreements here. Dolphins at Commanders.
Dolphins.
Panthers at Buccaneers.
Buccaneers.
Yeah, let's go Bucks there. 49ers at Eagles. I'm going Niners.
I'm going Eagles.
You're going Eagles. All right, so I can get you on
yeah,
one.
I hope you're right. I hope you beat me.
I know. Browns at Rams.
Rams.
Say I'm going Rams. Yeah. Chiefs at Packers. This is okay.
This one right here. I'm going with the Chiefs.
Okay.
But Lions, Packers look good. They took care of Detroit. It's a home game on Sunday Night Football. Love is taking that next step, it looks like, throughout the middle of the season. I'm not ruling the Packers out here, but I'm going to take the safe pick with the Chiefs.
I am changing my pick because I've been thinking about it, and I am going Packers.
All right.
They beat the Lions. I really think they can beat the Chiefs.
Yeah.
I think the Lions could be a better team than the Chiefs.
Yeah,
That's crazy.
I do not think you're wrong.
I am going Packers. Somewhat to have a disagreement with you, a little bit, but I also think the Packers can really win this game.
Yeah, I think they can too.
Bengals at Jags. Yeah, I think you're.
I mean,
I'm taking the Jags.
I want to take the Bengals, but
you can't. You can't because I mean, if they had a Dorian Thompson-Robinson or if they had
give me the Jags.
Yeah, give you the Jags. I mean, if they had somebody that was a decent backup, we could, but they just don't. So, ladies and gentlemen, after this, it's going to be a crazy weekend of sports. It's going to be a crazy week. Next week's winter meetings, so we may have some big baseball news next week.
Yeah, and then college football this weekend.
Obviously.
And NFL, obviously.
Yep. We will talk to you guys next week.
Yeah, have a good one.
You too.